from New York. No, we are in Laguna Woods, and it's the Laguna Woods Show with your host and moderator, Esther Grossfield. Here's Esther.
Hi, welcome to a Laguna Woods Show where every guest matters. Today we have a very special guest. We're going to talk today with Mark Tabert, and he's going to talk about Citizens Climate Lobby. Hi, Mark.
How you doing?
So nice to have you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about Citizens Climate Lobby?
Citizens Climate Lobby is a nonprofit. It's founded 10.5 years ago. It's the headquarters in Coronado Island. And it was founded by a fellow named Marshall Saunders. Marshall worked for almost 20 years for another group called Results. Results was a group that worked on world hunger programs. And during that time, Marshall was responsible for doing 1 million microloans in the third world. Wow. He received an international award. He was one of 7 people that received that award. The others were princes and queens. Marshall was the only real estate broker in San Diego that got that award. Wow. He saw Al Gore's movie in 2005, I think it was, Inconvenient Truth. Yeah. And he realized all the people he had helped in the third world were going to be suffering from the event, the climate change. Yeah. And he went out and he began his journey at that point by joining Al Gore's group. Al Gore has a group of people that goes around and does talks. I can't think of their name right now. I've been to their training, but now the name escapes me. Yeah. But Marshall did that for about. He did that for about 6 months, and he felt like he wasn't making enough progress. Yeah. He would go and make a speech to a group of people, and they would agree to change their light bulbs. Yeah. And then he would read the next day in the newspaper about Exxon getting a $10 million stipend, to help their business. So he switched over, and he went looking for someone that did work like Results did. Results grew the world hunger contribution the United States gave to world hunger programs from $25 million to $500 million. And the way they did that is by building relationships with members of Congress and advocating on a regular basis and being citizen lobbyists. So Marshall looked for a group that was doing things similar to that in the climate world, couldn't find it, so he founded Citizens Climate Lobby in 2005. So we're now 10.5 years old.
Oh, wow. So how big is the organization?
Well, I've been with the group 5.5 years, so half the time, a little bit more. And when I started my chapter in Newport Beach with my friend Craig Preston, we were the 62nd chapter in the world. Today there are over 500 chapters. Wow. And a chapter is a pretty big deal. To be a chapter, you have to have a group of people willing to do some work to lobby not only Congress, but also our local officials, be it state, county, or city officials, trying to get everybody to be aware of what they can do about climate change. And I think right now we're over 100,000 volunteers, supporters. Wow. That's a lot. Around the world.
Wow, that's a lot. So are you making any progress?
I'm proud to say we are. I started, like I said, I started in October 12 with CCL. And in those days, when we would go to Congress, we'd be explaining the most basic elements of our legislation to Congress. Yeah. And they didn't know what we were talking about. And today, just in the last year, the National Geographic has had a television show that featured us on a series called The Years Living Dangerously. Wow. It's a great series. If you missed it, it's still online. You can still go back and watch it. And we were featured about how we do our business in Washington and what we're accomplishing. Wow. New York Times did a nice piece on us in May, and they said someday we're going to owe Citizens Climate Lobby a thank you for the work they've done on climate change behind the scenes. Because when I started, no one knew Citizens Climate Lobby. And today, National Geographic knows us, the New York Times knows us, and we're getting good press from places like that. Wow. And in Congress, today there's a group called I have a picture of this group. This is This is the Climate Solution Caucus.
Yeah.
It's currently 74 members in the House,
Yeah.
half Republicans and half Democrats.
Yeah.
There are 37 Republicans and 37 Democrats that come together and talk about climate change solutions behind
Yes.
closed doors.
Yes. Yes.
We founded that group.
Yes.
We drafted the first Republican, Carlos Cabello in Florida,
Yeah.
and the first Democrat, Ted Deutsch,
Yeah.
and they agreed to form the group, and they agreed to come in 2 at a time.
Yeah.
So we never have more Democrats than Republicans. It always is an even number. That's why today we're 37 and 37.
37. Even.
And just to show you another couple of examples, these are 4 Republicans.
Yeah.
These are 4 Republicans that that are on the caucus: Mimi Walters, Darrell Issa, Ed Royce, and Steve Knight. Steve Knight's up around. He's north of here, not quite in Bakersfield, but he's up
Yes.
north.
Yes.
But the other 3 are right here in Orange County. Ed Royce down here is the only member that is also a leader in the House. Ed Royce is the head of the Foreign Relations Committee in the House.
Uh-huh.
So his joining the caucus was a major coup for us. Every
Wow.
one of these Republicans and every one of the Democrats are people we recruited into the group.
Wow.
So that's our number 1 accomplishment at this point.
Wow. So you have meetings, right? What is those What are they? Those meetings?
Citizens Climate Lobby is interesting compared to a lot of groups in the fact that our staff is very small,
Yeah.
but our members do a lot of work and very large.
Yeah.
I think currently our staff is about 35 members,
Yeah.
and those people are the people that they keep us on track. They keep reminding us of what to focus on. So every month we have a monthly call where this month we were on the call with someone from Ocean International.
Mm-hmm.
And their issue is partly climate change, but a lot of their issue is working to clean the ocean, clean it of plastic, to work on decarbonizing the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the speaker on Saturday morning. She came on at 10 o'clock. We gave her some questions, and that lasts for 40 minutes. So that's sort of the basis of our monthly meeting.
Mm.
And then after the monthly call, then we meet as a group and we go over an action plan. The action plan is produced by our staff in San Diego. And each month they give us sort of a choice of the kind of things they'd like us to do.
Like what kind of actions? What kind?
Well, like this month, our number 1 action this month is on June the 6th. We're going to have everybody that we can, everybody we know, call Congress and ask them to meet with us when we're in Washington next month. Next month we'll be in Washington for I think it's our 11th annual conference where we all go into Washington and we lobby. This year we're going to lobby on the 12th of June. The first year I went, there were 300 of us there. That was back in 2013.
Yeah.
Last year we were over 1,300 people. It turns out Citizens Climate Lobby is only a $5 million nonprofit, which is very small.
Yeah.
The Sierra Club is probably closer to 170 million.
Mm.
But we're the largest fly-in group in the country for any cause. In other words, there's no group that sends more people in to Washington on one single day than Citizens Climate Lobby.
Really?
I just learned that myself very recently and was quite a surprised and impressed. So everybody that goes to Washington pays their own way, pays $250 a night for a room, or stays at Airbnb or somewhere. You don't have to stay at the main hotel. This year I'll stay with my niece. Sometimes
She lives there?
I have a niece in D.C.
Yeah.
She's an attorney in
Yeah.
the patent office, and her husband's in the Justice Department.
Yeah.
He's also an attorney.
Yeah.
So this year I'm staying with them. It doesn't always work out because now they have 2 babies in the house. So 1,300 this year I'm sure we'll have more than 1,300 people. The final numbers are not in yet. So you asked me the number 1 action. Right now, I'll call all my friends and relatives and family, and I'll try to get them to call their member of Congress and say, please meet with Citizens Climate Lobby and pay attention to what they're working on. And there have been years where Congress, we walk into members of office, their office, and they say to us, "Oh my gosh, we've been flooded with calls." And we ask somebody, "What does flooding mean? How many calls is flooding?" And they said, "Oh, we must have gotten 8 or 9 calls." So it doesn't take many people to get notice in Congress. And that may be a little bit different today. The country is a lot more politically active today. I think Congress is getting a lot more calls from constituents about all sorts of issues because of the recent election with Mr. Trump, with President Trump.
So what is at stake?
Well, in my opinion, climate change is the biggest issue humankind has ever faced. If climate change continues as it is right now, and we just keep burning carbon the way we do, we'll heat the planet up to a point where we don't have the availability of food like we're used to, the availability of water. Right now, species, for instance, are migrating. See, species can't adopt. They can't turn on the air conditioner. So they have to migrate. So species that want to be cooler might be going up a mountain right now. People that want to be wetter might be, or people that want to be warmer or get cooler might come north. A lot of insects are moving north out of the tropics into our latitudes, and we're seeing tropical diseases that are moving north, like the Zika virus. So climate change is, it's bringing, like everyone knows, I think, it's bringing bigger storms, it's bringing more forest fires, it's killing our forest. Just to give you one example, Esther, you look at our forest, we've lost so much of our forest on the West Coast, not because of fire, but because of the bark beetle. The bark beetle is an insect that used to breed once a year. They would breed and they would be too cold a lot of the time to be out there chewing up on the pine trees. Now they breed twice a year in many places in the country, including in Canada, because the season, the warm season, is longer and the cold season is not as cold. The biggest changes in our temperatures are happening the farther north you go. So Alaska is having record high heats. You hear about the temperatures being 1 degree or 2 degrees colder or warmer across the around the world. That's a global average. The tropics haven't changed much, but the Arctic's changed dramatically, which is a very worrisome thing. I'll just give you 2 more examples of the kind of things that will happen if we continue doing what we're doing. We're used to having an ice sheet over the top of the poles, the North Pole. And that white ice sheet reflects the rays of the sun into space. But what's happening now is that ice sheet's getting smaller and smaller, and they're talking about it shrinking to where we just have a blue ocean part of the year. And a blue ocean sucks in heat and warms the planet that much faster than it already is. So fossil fuel burning starts the process, but it leads to other problems. The other example, the other big problem in the north, is that a lot of carbon is locked up in the atmosphere in the tundra. Not only in Siberia, not only in Alaska, but also in Siberia, in northern Canada. When the tundra thaws, it releases the carbon, and it adds the carbon much faster than we've ever experienced. Our carbon today has risen faster in the last 250 years than in the last 800,000 years. So we're facing a problem. And the good news is we still have time, we think, to do something about it.
So how can we stabilize it?
Well, the legislation we propose that we feel like would draw carbon down faster than anything else, the first important step is to put a price on carbon. So we have legislation, our main ask when we go to Washington is to create the political will for a stable climate. Our legislation is called fee and dividend.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
We put a fee on carbon, we suggest that we put a fee on carbon at the well, the mine head, and the port. And we start that fee relatively small to get people used to the idea that the price of dirty fuel is going to rise. But every year after that, that price goes up. So we recommend $15 for the first year, and the next year $25, the next year $35, and the price rises, continually pushing people away from dirty energy, making them look for alternatives. There are many, many ways we can conserve energy that we don't, because it's very free basically to us right now. We burn energy without thinking about it.
Yeah.
But if we were aware that our fuel cost was going to rise,
Yeah.
we'd conserve, all of us would. And also we'd look for alternatives.
Yeah.
Wind and solar are two examples. The people at Stanford and UC Davis say we can be off fossil fuel in 20 years with current technology. But they also say that if we really put a price on carbon, the technology will come about and change things even quicker. That's their expectation. And these are respected men out of both those schools. So we put a price on carbon at the well, the mine, the port. We steadily raise that price, and then we do two more things. We make sure we protect American families by sending all that money we collect from oil, coal, and natural gas, we send it back to families on an equal basis. So you and I would get a dividend every month, and so would everybody in the country, Bill Gates and the poorest guy you know. It so happens that this is a progressive tax, not by design, but it just so happens if you're well-to-do, you burn a lot of carbon. If you're spending money, you're burning a lot of carbon. So a poor person, a person that doesn't have a lot of income, doesn't burn much carbon. I used to think, well, my gardener, who cuts my grass, comes in that old beater truck, he burns that gasoline lawnmower. But the truth is, he'll make money on the deal. His dividend will be greater than what he pays in extra cost, because energy for him is a small portion of his expenses compared to other things he spends money on. So we make sure money goes back to people on an equal basis in the form of a dividend, and over time that dividend becomes fairly substantial. Go ahead.
How much do you start with the dividends?
What's that?
How much would you start with the dividends, you said?
On a per ton basis, it's $15 the first year. That's for the ton of pollution.
Yes.
We know how much pollution comes from every ton of coal or every barrel of gas or oil.
Yeah.
We know how much. So coal pays the most,
Yeah.
and then oil and then natural gas. The other thing, I said there were two things.
Yes.
We protect American families, we also protect American businesses.
Yeah. How?
Well, think about it. All the prices for fossil fuel are going to rise.
Yeah.
And so American companies are going to be at a disadvantage against the China company if China doesn't do the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know much. I'm doing a lot of talking here.
No, that's good. That's good. You have a lot of information.
But so what we do is we put a tariff at the border. So if China doesn't follow our lead, if Australia doesn't follow our lead, if all the countries in the world, whoever doesn't follow our lead, they pay an import tariff to the United States, which again, we put into the pot and it gets distributed to people. So that protects American business from foreign competition. It's the most complicated part of our plan, but it's doable, and it's legal according to the World Bank to do this, because we're treating American companies and foreign companies the same.
Has it been done before?
It's been done before, yes. It's been done before in British Columbia. It's currently being done, and it has been going on, I think, since 2007. I may be wrong on that date, but around 2007, 2008, they started it.
Really? And
what's happened is, compared to the rest of Canada, their emissions have gone down, and their economy has actually strengthened. Because what happens when you put a price on carbon, like we're suggesting, is it actually boosts the economy. Because the money goes right back into the economy. You take it away from these three dirty fuel sources, but you give it right back to people. So the money's still in the economy. And most of that money in the United States gets spent on retail and medical. A lot of people that can't afford to go to the doctor, if they have a little money in their pocket extra, they'll go to the doctor when before they might have avoided that visit. They might have not done that.
Wow.
And so it's working in British Columbia. In fact, the law in British Columbia, if they don't give all the money back to people, then they don't pay the Secretary of Treasury, whatever he's called up in British Columbia.
Wow.
And so far he's gotten his pay every year. So it's working.
So what is the methodology that you use to communicate with people?
Well, sort of the secret to our success in Washington and the secret to results, Marshall Saunders' group that he worked with for 20 years.
Yeah.
The reason they were able to take the budget from $25 to $500 million, and the reason we've been able to find this kind of a partnership is because we go to every office with the same respect, appreciation, and gratitude for their service. I sort of tear up when I talk about it because it's become very meaningful to me. It changes your life. I've had people that are attorneys and doctors say to me, Mark, Citizens Climate Lobby has changed my life. We really have two goals. I told you the first is to to create the political will for a stable climate.
Yeah.
The second one is to empower individuals to have breakthroughs in exercising their personal and political power. And we actually do that. If you see some of the people that come into our group as newcomers,
Yeah.
who come in sort of shy and they want to do something, but they're, they go to Congress and they're sort of nervous.
Yeah, yeah.
They come out of that charged up. It's a very empowering thing to go into your member of Congress and have them listen to you. And they do listen to you if you treat them with respect, appreciation, and gratitude. Dana Rohrabacher, I actually can call him a friend today.
Yeah.
We don't agree on many things in politics, especially on climate change. But he's a man that'll talk to us. I've drank beers with him in Washington with my group.
Really?
After hours, of course.
Yeah.
So our methodology is really something I've learned a lot from. You learn how to listen to people.
Yeah.
You learn not to argue with them. You learn to listen. You look for common ground.
Yeah.
That's part of our
Wow.
part of our methodology.
So beside lobbying, what else do you do?
But besides Congress, we also work with our city councils and with our state people.
Yeah.
So the state of California, for instance, passed a resolution that we started, and it's our resolution basically, and it says Citizens Climate Lobby is doing the right thing, and we want you to do it in Congress. So they passed a resolution. It was AJR 43. They passed it last year.
Yeah.
And it was Obama, it was 2 years ago, I guess, because Obama was still in office. And they sent a letter to Congress and to the president and asked them to pass our revenue neutral fee and dividend plan. Some people make fun of it and say, oh, this is like a letter to Santa, but it counts. Every time anybody says something to their congressman, it influences them. They care about us. Even though we've been trained almost to think that only money counts in Congress, that's really not the case. If you go to Congress and you appeal and you're steady and you work hard at something, they'll pay attention to you. Constituents still rule. We're just not seeing enough good citizenship in this country. We're starting to, I think, in the last couple of years.
Wow. So, so what are you going to do at the June conference? Let's talk about that.
Well, June conference, we spend a day, we get there on a Sunday, and the program actually starts officially on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah. And we'll spend half a day in the beginning by training and getting to know each other, the people that are there. Yeah. Monday we'll have keynote speakers, big name speakers, sometimes members of Congress, sometimes scientists, sometimes psychologists.
Psychologists too?
Psychologists, because we're learning how to react to people that disagree with us. We're learning the best approach to use. Wow. I think I might have mentioned this book to you before, but this is a great book.
Don't even think about it.
Don't even think about it, by George Marshall. I sell copies of this. I buy it wholesale, and I sell it for break even. It talks about all the ways we think as human beings. It's like we have three brains. We have a reptile brain that deals with stuff like fear and danger, and something jumps out of the weeds in the jungle, we know, what to do. The next brain is our human brain. They call it our limbic brain. And that's our emotional brain. And the last brain we have is the human brain, which is only about 12,000 years old, according to this book and others. We don't use the human brain very often. We use the emotional brain. So the big problem we face in Congress is that we found that some people become fixated on the idea that climate change science is not true. And they don't really study that in depth, but because their friends say that's not true, they gang up around that idea. It's like groupthink, another term.
So what can people, individual people, do to reduce the carbon?
The number one thing one of our advisors says, this is a woman named Catherine Hayhoe.
Yeah.
Catherine Hayhoe's, you're looking at, how's our time?
No, that's
Okay.
fine. We have another minute or two.
Catherine Hayhoe is, she's an evangelical Christian.
Yeah.
She's a climate scientist. And she's at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And a funny quick story on the side is she married an evangelical minister,
Yeah.
the youngest graduate ever out of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And after they were married,
Yeah.
she learned that he didn't believe climate change was a real problem, which was quite a shock. But they've worked that out, and now he understands better the science.
Yeah.
Catherine Hayhoe says the number one thing a person could do that's not engaged like I am,
Yeah.
like Citizens Club is
Yeah.
to talk to people about climate change.
Mm-hmm.
Become informed enough to raise the subject in a group.
Yeah.
If you do it now at a cocktail party, you're shunned. People
Yes.
like get
Yeah,
a how,
people don't wanna
how
talk
far I
about
get
it.
it. They
Yeah.
don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's why George Marshall says, talk about it. He says the same thing. Catherine Hayhoe was a Time Magazine 100 most influential person in 2015, and that's her number one. That's her number one ask.
And do individual thing like not use as much air condition or
The truth is, the people we really need to draft into the movement
yeah.
are typically the people on the Republican side of the aisle, and and they're the last people that want to be told about their carbon footprint. So if you talk about carbon footprint, I never do. I drive a car that gets 54 miles a gallon.
Yeah.
I dry my clothes on a line outside my backyard.
Same here.
I don't eat very much meat because I know that's carbon intensive. There's a lot of things, I even recycle. There's a lot of things I do to reduce my carbon footprint because I like to walk the talk.
Yes, yes.
But I know that I'm going to turn people off, especially some of the people I want the most.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just in Washington, I was just in San Diego last week
Yeah.
for the Republican convention.
Yeah.
And I never mentioned carbon footprint once, talking to Republicans.
Wow, we are running out of time. It was so nice having you here.
Thank you very much.
And we have so much information. And thank you for coming and making us aware of the climate change.
Check out citizensclimatelobby.org, citizensclimatelobby.org. And if you do, and you're in Orange County, you'll find me no problem.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching, and next time we'll have another interesting person.